You know that feeling when you've done everything right. You watered consistently, you fertilized, you gave it full sun all season, and you still pulled a pepper off the vine that was barely bigger than an egg. I've been there. Most home gardeners have, and for the longest time people just blamed the heat or the variety or bad luck. It's not luck. There's a reason it keeps happening, and it has nothing to do with how hard you're trying. There's one thing, one cheap, overlooked thing that costs about $2 that changes the whole picture. And when I say most gardeners never use it on peppers, I mean people who have been growing vegetables for 20 years have never applied this specifically to their pepper plants. I'm going to show you what it is, exactly how to use it, and why it works. In plain terms, no gardening degree required. Here on Amish Homestead Roots, that's what we're always after. The simple, time-tested methods that real growers have used for generations to put serious food on the table without spending serious money. If that's the channel you've been looking for, subscribe right now and ring that notification bell. We have a lot more coming and you'll want to see it from the beginning. Now, let's fix your peppers. Here's what most gardening guides skip right over. Bell peppers are one of the most nutrient-hungry plants you can put in the ground. But when people talk about feeding their garden, they almost always talk about the big three: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That's what's on every bag of fertilizer at the garden center, and for a lot of vegetables that covers it. But bell peppers have an extra demand, a quiet one. And when it goes unmet, the plant doesn't announce it loudly. It just slowly loses its ability to do what you're growing it to do: produce large, heavy, thick-walled fruit. That missing nutrient is magnesium. Magnesium sits at the center of every chlorophyll molecule in a plant's leaf. Not near it, right at the center. Think of chlorophyll like a solar panel, and magnesium like the wire connecting it to everything else. Without enough magnesium, the panel is there, but the energy isn't flowing properly. Chlorophyll captures sunlight. Sunlight gets converted into sugar. Sugar is what the plant uses to build fruit. Break that chain and your pepper plant is just barely keeping up. Surviving, not thriving, even when everything else looks fine from the outside. And here's the part that fools most gardeners. A magnesium-deficient pepper plant doesn't look sick right away. The plant is green, it's growing, it's even flowering. But look closely at the older leaves, the ones lower on the stem, closer to the soil. If the spaces between the veins are turning yellow while the veins themselves stay green, that's not random. That's your plant signaling that it's running low. It's a specific pattern, and once you know what to look for, you'll recognize it immediately. You don't need to know the technical name for it. Just remember, yellow patches between green veins on the lower leaves equals a magnesium problem. Write that down if it helps. What happens next is the plant does something clever but frustrating. It starts pulling magnesium out of those older leaves and moving it up to the new growth, because the new growth is its survival priority. So the lower leaves continue to yellow and eventually drop. Meanwhile, the fruit that does set stays small because the plant simply doesn't have the energy to swell it properly. It's running on reserve. Now here's something that catches people off guard. Even if your soil has magnesium in it, your pepper plant may not be able to access it. Soil that's too acidic, below a pH of 6.0, chemically locks magnesium to soil particles so roots can't pick it up. Overwatering flushes it away before roots can absorb it. And heavy potassium fertilizing, ironically, blocks magnesium uptake because the two minerals compete for the same absorption pathway in the root system. So a gardener who is doing everything by the book can still end up with this exact problem, and never know why. So what fills that gap? What costs $2 at any dollar store, Walmart or pharmacy, and has been sitting overlooked on those shelves for over a century? Epsom salt. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds too simple. I thought the same thing the first time someone mentioned it, but here's what changed my mind. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. That's not a brand name. That's a chemistry name. It is literally the mineral your pepper plant is running short on, in a form that dissolves completely in water and absorbs through both roots and leaves. There's no middleman, no waiting for soil microbes to break it down over months. You mix it, you spray it, and within a week the plant is putting it to work. Now, I'm not going to tell you this is some miracle cure that fixes every garden problem, because it isn't. If your soil is severely compacted, or your watering is completely off, Epsom salt alone won't rescue a struggling plant. But for the specific common problem of underdeveloped, thin-walled bell peppers, which is what most home gardeners deal with and never understand why, this addresses the actual root cause directly, and it costs $2 for enough product to last your entire growing season. Old order Amish gardeners didn't call it magnesium supplementation. They didn't have that language and didn't need it. But generations of them knew that a small amount of bitter salts worked into the soil around their pepper and tomato beds meant a noticeably heavier harvest come late summer. They passed that down the same way they passed down seed saving and canning, not through books, but through watching and doing alongside each other. The science eventually caught up and confirmed exactly why it worked. The practice was already there, generations ahead of the research. What makes Epsom salt particularly useful compared to other magnesium sources is that it dissolves completely in water, which means you can apply it as a foliar spray directly onto the leaves, and plants absorb nutrients through their leaves significantly faster than through their roots. You can begin correcting a deficiency in days rather than weeks, and the sulfate portion of the compound isn't wasted either. Sulfur supports protein synthesis in the plant, which means stronger cell walls, improved disease resistance, and better flavor development in the fruit. Two real benefits from one $2 bag. Let me walk you through exactly how to use this, the way I'd explain it to someone standing next to me in the garden. You're going to use Epsom salt two ways, as a foliar spray directly on the leaves and as a soil drench at the base of the plant. Both matter. They work differently and they complement each other, so don't skip either one. For the foliar spray, dissolve 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt in 1 gallon of water. Room temperature water works best. It helps the salt dissolve faster and doesn't shock the plant. Pour it into a spray bottle or a garden sprayer and apply it to the leaves, top and bottom. Do this in the early morning or late evening, never during the middle of the day when the sun is at full strength, because wet leaves in direct sunlight can scorch. You want those leaves dry before the hottest part of the day hits. Start this the same week you transplant your pepper seedlings into the garden. Don't wait until you see a problem. Start before any issue develops and you prevent it entirely, which is always easier than correcting it after the fact. For the soil drench, use the same ratio, 1 tablespoon per gallon, and pour it slowly and directly at the base of the plant, soaking the root zone thoroughly. Do this once a month. The foliar spray gives you fast results because leaf absorption is quick. The soil drench builds sustained magnesium availability in the root zone over the long term. Together they cover both needs, the immediate and the ongoing. 1 tablespoon, 1 gallon, leaves every 2 weeks, roots once a month. That's genuinely all there is to the core application. You could write that on a piece of tape and stick it inside your shed door. Now this is where most people stop. And this is where I want to add one more piece, because without it, you'll solve one problem and walk right into another. When you begin correcting magnesium, you need calcium in adequate supply as well. These two minerals work together in plant nutrition the way 2 legs work in walking. You need both moving in balance. And one of the most discouraging things that happens to home pepper growers is something called blossom end rot. You've probably seen it. The bottom of the pepper turns dark, sunken, and soft. The fruit is ruined. Most people blame inconsistent watering, and while uneven watering does trigger it, the underlying cause is almost always a calcium shortage or a calcium uptake problem. The fix is simple and essentially free if you cook at home. Crushed eggshells. Dry your eggshells completely. A few hours on the counter is enough. Then crush them as fine as you can with your hands or a rolling pin. Work a small handful into the soil at the bottom of the planting hole when you transplant your seedlings. They break down slowly and release calcium steadily through the season, exactly when the developing fruit needs it. If you don't have enough eggshells, 1 tablespoon of garden lime worked into the planting hole does the same job. Garden lime is calcium carbonate. Inexpensive, widely available at any garden center, and it also gently raises soil pH if your ground is slightly acidic, which helps with overall nutrient absorption. Epsom salt for magnesium, eggshells or lime for calcium, both done at planting time. You've just addressed the 2 most common hidden causes of poor pepper production in home gardens, for roughly $2 and whatever eggshells you would have thrown away. Now let's talk about the mistakes, because this is where people go wrong even after they know the method. And this is where most pepper videos stop short. So pay attention here. Mistake 1. Using too much Epsom salt. More is not better, and I want to say that clearly because once people see results, the temptation is to double the dose and accelerate things. It doesn't work that way, and excessive magnesium actually blocks calcium absorption, the very nutrient we just covered. Stick to 1 tablespoon per gallon. The schedule I'm giving you is calibrated for the whole season. Trust the ratio. Mistake 2. Starting too late. Epsom salt can be used to help a deficient plant recover, but it works best as prevention. If you wait until your peppers are already struggling, you're spending the entire season playing catch-up, and your fruit set suffers in the meantime. Start at transplant day. Build it into your planting routine the same way watering a new transplants is routine. It takes 2 extra minutes and costs pennies per application. Mistake 3. Ignoring soil pH. If your soil pH is below 6.0, magnesium is chemically unavailable to your plant's roots regardless of how much you apply. A basic soil test kit from any garden center costs about $5 and takes 10 minutes. If your pH is too low, the garden lime at planting that we already talked about will bring it up while providing calcium at the same time. 2 problems, 1 solution. Mistake 4. Spraying in direct midday sun. Water droplets on leaves in full sun act like small magnifying glasses. They concentrate sunlight and burn the leaf tissue. Always spray in the morning before 9 a.m. or in the evening after the sun begins to lower. This is a quick fix that prevents completely unnecessary damage. Mistake 5. Being inconsistent. The gardeners who see the most dramatic results aren't the ones who did 1 heavy application and waited. They're the ones who kept the 2-week foliar schedule quietly and faithfully through the entire season. Bell peppers take time to size up. You're feeding a long-season plant. Think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. Missing 1 week occasionally won't ruin anything, but a consistent rhythm across the whole season is what produces the kind of fruit that actually impresses you at harvest. Now, I want to be honest with you about one more thing before we move on, because I think honesty is what makes information actually useful. This isn't a miracle, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You will still have seasons where pests show up, or the weather does something unexpected, or one plant just doesn't cooperate for reasons you can't fully explain. That happens to every gardener, including experienced ones who've been at it for decades. What the Epsom salt program does is remove one of the most common preventable causes of poor pepper production. The one that's been quietly working against you without you knowing it was there. You address that, and you've given your plants a genuinely better foundation. The rest is still gardening. But at least now you're not fighting it with one hand tied behind your back. If you're still with me right now, I genuinely appreciate that. It means you're the kind of person who wants to actually understand what they're doing in the garden, not just grab a quick tip and hope it sticks. That's exactly who this channel is built for. Before we get into the full seasonal schedule and the companion plants that make bell peppers even more productive, make sure you're subscribed to Amish Homestead Roots. We put out new homestead and garden content every single week. Practical, tested, old-fashioned methods that work in real backyards on real budgets. And we have a full raised bed growing series coming that you're going to want to see from the very beginning. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, let's talk about timing, because when you do, all of this matters just as much as how you do it. Let me give you a complete season schedule, something you can follow from the day you put your seedlings in the ground all the way to final harvest. I want this to be practical enough that you can take it and apply it without second-guessing yourself. Transplant day. Before your seedling goes in the ground, work a small handful of crushed dried eggshells, or 1 tablespoon of garden lime, into the bottom of the planting hole. Backfill with your regular soil. Water in with plain water. No Epsom salt today. Let the plant settle into its new environment without any additional inputs. Give it 2 to 3 days to establish. Days 3 to 5 after transplant. Once the plant is standing upright and showing the first signs of new growth, even a small unfurling leaf that tells you it has begun to root in. This is your signal to begin the Epsom salt program. Mix 1 tablespoon per gallon and apply your first foliar spray in the morning, every 14 days from that point. Foliar spray, same ratio, morning or evening. Put it in your phone calendar or mark it on a physical calendar in the shed. Treat it with the same consistency you bring to watering. It's just part of the routine now. Once a month, soil drench at the base of the plant. You can time this to coincide with one of your foliar spray days to keep things simple. Some gardeners use a slightly stronger ratio for the soil drench, 2 tablespoons per gallon, once a month. That's fine for soil application only. Keep the foliar spray at 1 tablespoon per gallon every time. Mid-season check, around week 6 or 7. Look at your lower leaves. Are they staying a healthy, rich green? Good. Keep going exactly as you have been. Are you seeing yellow patches between the veins on lower leaves? Check your soil pH first. If pH is fine, you can tighten the foliar schedule to every 10 days for a few weeks to correct the deficiency, then return to every 14 days once the leaves recover. Final application. Stop all Epsom salt feeding about 2 weeks before your expected final harvest or first frost. There's no benefit to feeding a plant that's winding down. Let it put its remaining energy into ripening the fruit already on the vine, rather than pushing new growth that won't have time to develop. Now let's talk about what you plant around your peppers, morels, because this is something most home gardeners either skip entirely or overthink. You don't need a complicated companion planting diagram, you just need a few specific plants nearby, and they do a quiet but genuinely useful job all season long. Basil is your first companion, and it earns its spot every single day. Plant it within about a foot of your pepper plant. The volatile oils basil produces naturally repel aphids, thrips, and spider mites, 3 of the most common pests that stress pepper plants and slow fruit development. Does it eliminate the problem completely? No, you'll still see the occasional aphid, but you'll see significantly fewer, and your plant won't spend its energy fighting off a full infestation when it should be sizing up fruit. Marigolds go around the border of your pepper bed, or interplanted throughout if you have the space. French marigolds specifically release a compound from their roots that's toxic to soil nematodes, microscopic worms that attack root systems and quietly strangle plant growth from underground. They also attract beneficial insects that naturally prey on common garden pests. A flat of marigolds costs $3 or $4 and works for you every single day of the season. Carrots are an underrated companion that most people never think to pair with peppers. Their long taproots break through compacted soil layers and create natural drainage channels that help pepper roots reach deeper water and nutrients. In heavy or clay-tending soil especially, this is genuinely valuable. You get free soil improvement and a vegetable out of the deal. Flatleaf parsley planted about 18 inches away attracts parasitic wasps, beneficial insects that prey on caterpillars and aphids. Give it a bit of distance so it doesn't shade the pepper's lower leaves as it fills in, and keep fennel well away from everything. Fennel releases compounds from its roots that inhibit the growth of most vegetables, including peppers. It's not a bad plant, it just needs its own dedicated space, separate from the rest of your garden beds. Brassicas, cabbage, broccoli, kale are also poor neighbors for peppers because they compete heavily for the same soil nutrients, including the calcium we've worked to provide. Give them their own separate bed. Now let me tell you what to actually expect when you put all of this together, and I want to be realistic with you because honest expectations are more useful than hype. In the first 2 to 3 weeks, you probably won't see dramatic visible changes. The work is happening inside the plant where you can't see it. Magnesium being incorporated into chlorophyll, calcium being made available to developing cells, roots establishing a new soil. This is normal. Don't second-guess the process during this window. By weeks 4 to 6, you'll notice the difference in the leaves first. There'll be a deeper, richer green. Any yellowing that was present will have stopped spreading, and older leaves may recover some of their color. The plant will look more vigorous overall, more upright, fuller, visibly healthier. By weeks 8 to 10, when flowers begin to set and early fruit starts developing, that's when the payoff becomes visible in a way you can hold in your hand. The fruit that sets will be fuller from the beginning. It will size up faster than you're used to seeing. The walls will be thicker, the peppers will feel heavier when you pick them. That's the result of more photosynthesis, more sugar production, more energy being channeled into fruit development rather than just keeping the plant alive. And there will still be a bad week here and there. A pest shows up. A stretch of rain messes with your spray schedule. One plant underperforms for reasons you can't pin down. That's gardening. It doesn't become predictable just because you're doing more things right. What this system does is raise your floor. Your worst plants will do better than they used to. Your best plants will genuinely impress you. I want to hear how it goes for you. Drop a comment below and tell me what variety you're growing, what your soil situation looks like, or what problems you've been dealing with in past seasons. I read every comment and I respond to as many as I can. This community is full of real gardeners sharing real results, and that honest back and forth is what makes this worth showing up for every week. If this video was useful to you, the best thing you can do is share it with one person you know who gardens, not for the views. Because there is someone in your life right now who has been frustrated with their pepper plants for years and has no idea this is why. And this video could genuinely change their next season. And if you haven't subscribed to Amish Homestead Roots yet, there's a button right below this video that takes 2 seconds. We're building a full library of honest, practical, old-fashioned growing knowledge, the kind that works in a real backyard without a big budget or a lot of fancy equipment. The Amish didn't build productive gardens by chasing whatever was newest at the garden center. They built them by paying close attention, staying consistent, and using what was simple and already available. That's still the best approach, and it's what this channel is about. Now go get that $2 bag of Epsom salt. Your pepper plants have been waiting long enough.